Hello, I'm Binzer Flynn, and welcome to the Flinncast.
So I'm all caught up. I watched the last 6 episodes of Supernatural over the past 2 nights, and then did my second viewing of Mandalorian this evening. Took just a couple of notes.
I was trying to get through Discovery, and I'm 2.5 episodes left to go. But it's fine.
I've only ever watched that one episode we watched at the old Triangle. That was enough for me.
Oh, you're missing out, man.
These guys challenged me to watch Discovery so I can keep up with it. So I ended up watching all 34 episodes in like 2.5 days.
And he came around on it.
I will say season 1, season 2 and season 3, much better.
Do you have to watch season 1? Is there enough there that it's like, yeah, you need to know these characters, or can you just jump into season 2?
Well, maybe if you read a detailed synopsis.
There is some character development in season 1, but honestly, if you really, really don't want to watch season 1, you should be able to skip into season 2 without too much lost.
Well, and as Vinzer said, if you did like a recap synopsis, if he read one of those, he would be able to have enough of the storyline from season 1.
I mean, you could also just skip the first half and skip the Klingon War entirely and go right to the second part, because the second part is much better.
Second part of the first season?
So like episode, I think 8, they stopped mid-season, and then they kept on going the next year when it was being released, and it finished off the season. So like Cry said, you could probably get away with skipping episodes 1 to 8 at least.
I mean, you miss a lot of Lorca, but whatever. The first 2 seasons suffered from the writers changing halfway through, like the showrunner and the writers changing halfway through the season. So, if you ever noticed an abrupt, like this is why the first half of season 1 is different feeling than the second half, it's because they changed like showrunners.
That would do it.
Yeah, because I didn't enjoy what I saw of it, so it didn't feel like Star Trek to me at the time.
And that's okay.
Maybe it was our presence there that spoiled it for you.
I don't think so.
But no, once it got into season 2, it felt much more fresh. I mean, they brought it back. They brought back enough elements from the original and other stuff from Star Trek to give it a Trek feel, but it still felt like its own story. And if you're one of those guys where the continuity really matters, I just got it in my head that this is an alternate universe. I'm not going to worry about
I already know about some sort of, I don't know if it's time travel or dimension skipping. The ship does some weird flippy thing.
Hey.
Hello, Fat Apollo.
Hi, my friends. How are you?
Oh my God, everybody's here.
Here's a voice I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about the latest Discovery and the latest Mando, so I really wanted to come in for that.
Oh, we're more than welcome. Everyone's always welcome to this. It just means there's going to be a lot of helmets on the marquee, and I like that.
Yeah.
If everyone's good to go, we can start with Discovery. My plan is to start with Discovery, do Mando, and then, as befits the finale of Supernatural, finish on that. Discovery episode, what are we on, 6?
Yes.
Hey, Cryus, you called it. Ship retrofit.
Yeah, they disconnected the nacelles, which was a kind of a cool look, and then it got kind of I likened it to like a Tron skin. Lots of glowy blue lights.
Did they? I might have missed it. Did they explain why they detached the nacelles? Why did they do that?
Maneuverability and something. Make it fly good.
Yeah,
Okay.
They said it was malleable matter. Malleable matter.
Programmable.
Yeah, programmable matter. That's right. So what happens is it's like Buddy's ship where the pieces move around the ship. So probably you're going to see when Discovery starts moving around, the nacelles will actually move around the ship.
Yeah, but when you see the nacelles, I mean, you see the programmable matter, but then it slips back into the ship. So I think it's actually being held by force fields from the looks of it.
It looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean with the nacelles kind of getting that Tron look. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're going to, like, honestly, I think as you saw with the fellow ship that she's been with, Michael's been with, it's going to move around the ship to make it more maneuverable.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah, Book's ship is a lot more versatile than I thought it was. Like I maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it before, but like when it did that little turnaround and all the parts just kind of flipped around, like that was fucking cool.
Yeah.
Can we talk about one thing? Can we talk about that he's got a Maine Coon cat? I had one, and my God, I love that cat. The thing was freaking huge. It had 6 fingers on every paw, and it was like having a cougar in your house.
I also had a part Maine Coon, part Ragdoll, my little bubbies.
Oh, it must have been so soft.
He was uber fluff. He had like a full foxy black tail. He was a tuxedo.
Oh my God.
Yes.
With this episode of Discovery, did anybody else find it a little murdery?
I was thinking that actually when they were going all this. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's at least one
The Emerald-
decapitation.
The Emerald Chain seems to have absolutely no, yeah, we'll kill people, whatever.
No, but I mean about Discovery's crew killing people.
Michael and Philippa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Philippa. I mean,
Yeah,
this is like Mirror Universe Philippa, who has absolutely no inclination to kill someone if she feels like it.
Yeah. But you had all those guys running with their little hand phasers and just getting wiped out. It was like so terrible.
I really hate these new phasers with the circles on the end.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, my problem is that we've only seen the Emerald Chain guys use these like circle disruptor cannon whatevers. We haven't seen what a Federation hand weapon looks like yet.
Yeah, you're right.
Good point.
Let's talk about the upgrades as well as the ship. Those new badges, which are like totally multifunctional, personal transports built into them, as we saw Linus hilariously and unsuccessfully try his a few times.
Yeah, the Linus bit was funny for this episode. If they continue going on with that, it's going to get unfunny really quick.
Linus is kind of the, what was his name from Deep Space Nine? Moog.
Morn?
Sorry, said it wrong.
Moog was Worf's dad.
That's right.
I think that the upgrades are going to be very interesting because they're being grafted onto an older ship. So the idea that the spore drive technology was completely forgotten after Discovery left that universe is really a cool sort of like play on things.
Well, Stamets was its chief scientist that basically engineered the entire thing. The other scientist, if I recall, was on Discovery's sister ship that dies in like the first or second episode. So taking Stamets out of the Starfleet equation probably, halted the entire process.
Great point.
Yeah, it's just neat though that this older ship can bring something to the Federation that they don't have. That yes, they are the old or the ancients, 900 years past, but they're able to bring something to the Federation that they've never had before, and it's not dependent on dilithium.
Sort of turns the tables on him. It's like, oh, you don't have this technology? How quaint.
That's one thing that makes Discovery valuable, right? If you had a 900-year-old ship show up and without that, maybe the dilithium helps, I guess, but like without spore drive, Discovery would be probably mothballed immediately.
I'm going to be curious to see what kind of weapons upgrades they've done to Discovery, because if the Admiral has said this thing is going to be their rapid responder, if you're going to send something in instantly and it's just going to get fried in once it gets to a battle situation, it's going to be kind of useless.
Here's the thing I wonder, do you think we're going to see the reemergence of the Borg?
Ooh.
Because now got me wondering, is the transwarp conduit system still in existence?
I feel like in this 900 period that if the Borg didn't take everything over, someone must have dealt with them with a finality, because like it feels like if you gave them that much time, they would have gone everywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we still don't know, even from the events in Picard, where the Borg stand, even in the very end of the 24th century, because they have one captured cube, but they haven't necessarily defeated them all.
Are they some sort of like fringe race that, yes, they still exist, but their power is so low that they can't assimilate anyone, but they still exist as a race?
That's a pretty big matzo ball hanging out there.
Back by the 32nd century, they figured out a way to neutralize Borg nanites. So I'm gonna go with that Apollo. They're probably just an outlier, and if they like show up, it's like Binzer. Oh, how quaint! And fry them.
They probably blue screened and just went offline.
But think of it: the malleable matter, as I call it, looks like nanotechnology. Like all of the, putting your hand over the consoles and stuff rises up to meet you, seems like nanotechnology. So maybe they've taken the best of the Borg and integrated, and like you just said, them as a people are just this little fringe race that have now gone off and done their own thing.
That's a great theory. That's the one I had never even considered, is that somehow Borg tech could have been incorporated into what we're seeing.
I can already hear Richard Picardo saying Borg nanites in my head. So another thing I thought was cool about this episode is we get to see the uniform updates as well. I mean, we saw the comm badge updates, obviously, which I read a thing that the showrunners have actually already made a comm badge Bible. So like there's defined hand motions to like go from tricorder to like holopad to personal transporter. There's specific hand motions that control all of that, like gesture based, which is kind of neat.
I just wanted to say to all my Star Trek Uber fans here, what do you think of Discovery becoming Discovery NCC 1053A?
I think it's a necessary ruse. If they want to hide Discovery's identity as a ship from the 23rd century, 26th century, whatever the heck it should be, running around with its original registry number makes zero sense, because they're just going to look up that ship and go, that ship got destroyed 900 years ago. Why are they reusing the number? So by slapping an A on it, it's like camouflage.
Yeah, you're right.
Same as Voyager. When they come in, they say, oh, there's Voyager, but it is the 7th iteration of Voyager.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how they're going to explain the spore drive on Discovery A if supposedly technology was lost 700 years ago.
This is assuming anyone figures out that they have a spore drive. For any outsider would be knowing, they'd be like, oh, they got here really quick. How'd they do that?
The spore drive was never public knowledge. It was an experimental ship to begin with. That's what we were talking about, that it should have been actually an NX ship.
And they make a point of saying that, remember, in the first season, where the crew aren't allowed to talk about what they're doing. Remember when Tilly is like, well, I'm doing something, but I can't tell you what I'm doing.
On the other hand, there was like 2 or 3 ships of this class already in service. So an NX destination may not probably make sense.
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Just looking at the ship pictures Cryas posted in chat, like it's a new ship design to us, but it is so fucking classic Star Trek looking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen, honestly, is with Philippa, and I'm saying her name wrong, of course. I think that, remember how David Cronenberg made a point of saying the 2 galaxies or the 2 universes have pulled further apart. I think we're going to see a return of the Terrans.
I think that's inevitable at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I think we're going to see Terrans coming back into the galaxy. And wasn't it interesting during the last episode on the mining colony with the Orions, who actually looked pretty hot, to tell you the truth. The guys are pretty good looking. I have to, in that sort of bro Orion way, right? They're kind of like the whole thing was with that guy when he was like, my uncle owns this planet. I was thinking, yeah, my uncle owns a car dealership every time he was speaking, right? But the idea that they took that Andorian and cut his stalks off, that was weird.
Yeah, we got some good classic Trek races in this, right? There was an Andorian, there was a Bajoran or two, and then there was obviously the usual Emerald Chain Orions.
So basically, Emerald Chain is the 32nd century version of the Orion Syndicate.
So Philippa's got something going on. I don't know, some sort of PTSD or something happening that keeps taking her out of the moment, which seems weird for her because she's so fucking on the ball at all times.
The doctor, the psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever he was at Starfleet headquarters when he was the person that was I don't know how, but I think he screwed her up probably to control her.
I think what's happening is I think that he has somehow screwed her up, like you just said, and it's about bringing the Terran Empire back to this universe.
There could be Terran agents here already.
Yeah, and he was going on about how, he always studied them, he always felt good about them, he always wanted to know more about them. So I think him working with her is subconsciously is looking to bring that Terran Empire back into the now fractured universe where the Federation doesn't have any control. So he's looking to bring a stronger force back in.
Which is going to be interesting because if the showrunners have said this is the prime timeline, in the 24th century, or by the 24th century, the Terran Empire had been defeated by a combo Klingon slash Cardassian alliance. So the humans at that time were basically just rebels and rogues and a race that was just hanging on by its fingernails. So I'm curious as to see if that theory holds. What happened between the 24th century and the 32nd century that would bring the Terrans back to a position of prominence?
Could you imagine if even a fraction of the surviving Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe came into the Prime Universe with a small dilithium powered fleet? Like, game over.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess it would depend on comparative weapons technology, but yeah, if they could get around pretty quick, that seems like that'd be it.
Well, they would certainly start. They would certainly be able to carve out a major section of the galaxy if they did that.
So when they went down to the scrapyard to find Book, again, the thought occurred to me, and I guess maybe it's just the more recent cinematography and stuff, but it looks like Star Trek has wandered into the Star Wars galaxy because it's got that scrapyard gritty look. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I also appreciated the stem bolt joke.
Yes!
Totally.
My nerd friends over at the Seventh Roll podcast were because they're like Deep Space Nine freaks.
That was the classic Nog and Jake trying to unload those self-stealing stem bolts, right? Yeah, I got it
They
too.
were
In one of the scenes where they're walking down a hallway, there's a galactic map on one of the screens, and I'm desperately trying to find it because I want to talk about it, but I can't find the scene that it happens in to grab a screenshot.
If I had one job in the future, if I had to say, Mike, you're going into the future, you have one job. My job would be supplying uniforms to Starfleet because they change their uniforms the way I change underwear. They're always changing. Like, I'm looking at that admiral and he's got that thing on his neck, and I'm like, okay, now what rank is he?
Well, he's got a 5 pip thing on his badge. Well, and it's cool. So they've added the rank insignia both to the comm badge and the neck, like what would the pips would have been.
I love the idea of adding the ranks to the badge. That, to me, makes perfect sense because you could think of each badge as it gets higher rank having more abilities than previous badges.
Sort of reminiscent of the code cylinders Imperial officers were in Star Wars. Yeah, like higher rank, higher pass cards.
Which finally got a nod in this episode of Mandalorian, I will point out.
It did.
Wasn't it amazing to see them actually use it? I was like so pumped when he took that thing and went, just put that there. I'm like,
So I just realized I haven't seen them yet, but the Star Trek Discovery shorts that they did, apparently one of them involves the USS Discovery, like 1,000 years later, where some guy discovers it, and apparently the ship is when they do this, the ship is showing its original looks. So I'm kind of curious as to what happened between now and then.
Yeah, the short treks are throwing a little bit of a wrench into what they're doing right now. So I haven't seen them all either.
Me
but-
neither.
The thing about the short tracks, and that one specifically does speak to what's happening, because in that short track, when the warrior from the future finds Discovery, because she's been hidden in a nebula forever, Discovery is setting it. It can speak, it knows what's going on. So that plays into the whole idea of the core, or the sphere, where the sphere now is starting to impact Discovery as a sentient being. Remember where it said it started making recommendations to Suru? So that's what it's talking about. So you could think of that in the future, when this thing goes further into the future, it actually reverts itself back to what it's comfortable with.
That's interesting. If there's a lot of programmable matter upgrades, maybe the Sphere AI was able to make the ship look like it used to.
Oh.
Yeah, and the thing is, it won't affect its performance, because detaching the cells is whatever it is. But what they're doing is Discovery, because Discovery is all by itself, sitting in this nebula, it reverts to what it feels comfortable with, its original body form. So when this guy meets it, and the sphere has taken over Discovery's computer, which is going to happen, I guarantee you that Discovery is going to become a character in the show now, where it is actually going to be a speaking, functioning character.
That's really interesting, and I like that, and that takes it a step above. I've always thought in Star Trek and things like Firefly and Star Wars, the ship is a character unto itself. It just doesn't really talk. It has kind of behavior like the Falcon or whatever, but that would really take it to the ultimate degree where it's like it can speak and be a character.
Yeah, where it's going to say, I don't want to do this. What do you mean I'm going to go? I'm not going there. That's nuts. And I mean, that's what I loved about the Han Solo film, where you understand that the Millennium Falcon actually has its own rationale. It exists as a program. It knows what's happening to it.
That was a wonderful way to work that in the Solo movie, because in classic movies, 3PO makes a point of saying, I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, Captain Solo, but it's got a weird dialect. All right, who's ready for Mandalorian?
Oh, who isn't?
Well, Carmine's back in the cast, and he's got notes. Where do you want to start, Carmine?
Go, baby.
I only took a few notes, just some points that I wanted to remember. Well, yeah, in some of the episodes in previous, I looked through my old notes. There's 3 pages on some episodes. You've already done episode 3, I assume. So we're just looking at episode 4, The Siege.
The Siege, yes.
Well, yeah, I guess if I'm starting, we return to Navarro. The ship is, I liked at the end of the episode where they're taking off and the ship has been repaired by the Moncala, and it's just, it's a wreck.
Oh.
So, little side journey, which apparently Carl Weathers directed this episode.
He did.
And we get to see Navarro after the end of season 1. And Cara Dune has been the marshal and cleaning up the town. We get to see the former covert.
Yeah, I was wondering if the armor was going to be there or not, but she clearly cleared out of there.
Yeah.
I was hoping she was going to show up, but no luck.
I think we were all kind of hoping Din was going to go back and be like, "What? We're in a cult? Like what?"
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. The episode 3. Grief is still around. He's magistrate, looking a little older with the white in his goatee there.
Got a couple points here. The first one is to do with the baby, and every episode, and this one too, it keeps going on and on about how much the baby keeps eating everything. And I mean, it's funny and it's cute, but I don't think this is a mistake. I think this is intentional. And my latest theory, as I was explaining to Raina earlier, is that I think this kid is preparing for the next phase of his life. Like he's gonna eat and eat and eat, like he's gonna hibernate, and he's gonna either go into a sleep or turn into a fucking pod or something, and he's gonna come out of it and he's not gonna get any bigger, I don't think, because Yoda's not very big, but he's gonna become the next phase of his being, where I have a theory the season's gonna end with him going like calling the Mandalorian his father or something like that. He's gonna start talking.
And maybe get some normal eyeballs. Some of the things that they're having him do too, like where he steals the cookies in this episode, or he eats the eggs of another sentient being, right? I think it's showing that, Yoda's race isn't necessarily all pure and good, because it's like everybody thinks of him as Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is very much very noble, kind of fourth-rate character, I guess. So they're kind of separating that by saying, this guy does stuff that would be considered shady, but then look at the company he's keeping, right?
I mean, it could also just be a testament to all kids can be dumb. Like, all
jerks.
kids are horrible little sociopaths until taught otherwise.
Well, someone raised a very valid point that Yoda didn't go to Dagobah because it's a dark side blind spot. He was the apex predator there. When he died, everyone was like, "Oh, thank God he's dead."
Crazy.
Yeah.
The forest heaved a sigh of relief.
The ecosystem was repaired itself after Yoda died.
It's interesting to note there's protocol droid, like they turned the former pub into a school, and the protocol droid was teaching it. So it's like, oh yeah, I don't think this protocol droids. C-3PO was one, the most famous one we know of, but I don't think it's not like R2 units. Are they called C units? I don't know.
That particular protocol droid is from Cybot Galactica. They're a whole different line, but yeah, just protocol droid.
There you go.
So the other thing I thought was cool, in the background before they enter the school, you can actually see a statue of IG-11.
Really?
I did not catch
Oh, I
that.
missed that.
Totally missed that. Oh, he's a
And I
local
watched it
hero.
twice.
Yeah, I totally missed that.
That's cool.
Did I?
Must have been Taika Waititi going, it would be cool. Put a statue of IG-11 there. You think that's his actual body or a statue?
I mean, it could be either or. That picture's a little more cleaned up. In the episode, it's a little darker and a little harder to notice.
That's cool. I like that. Little Easter egg.
You know what I liked was the fact that when the Imperials get on their speeders and start chasing them, they're still shitty drivers.
Yeah, actually wrote that in my notes. Speeder bikes crash into each other like they're TIE fighters.
Those idiots.
And what I love is that the other guy looks back and goes, what a bunch of fucks. Like, he doesn't even, pause that his two buddies have killed each other. He goes, yeah, what a bunch of jerks.
They must be used to life being pretty cheap under Moff Gideon's command, though, right?
We're seeing a lot more lately, too, of the Mando using his jetpack. Like, they're trying to get in through the door, and they're like, yeah, get at this unit. Let's pry the door open. And they're like, yeah, just give me a minute. Flies up.
Man, like, if I had a jetpack, I'd use it to go down the hall to the bathroom like I would use. Like...
It's true. Can confirm he would do that.
Yeah. Well, I expected him to use the jetpack to get off the busted ramp of the Razor Crest when he came out, but he just sits down and jumps out.
Yeah. Was the vehicle that they used to escape in, was that canon or is that a new vehicle?
It was originally that looked like a modified troop carrier, but that was a Star Wars toy that made it into canon in the shows in Rebels, and they've still been using it.
Yeah, I was about to say it looked like it was from Rebels.
Yep.
Okay.
What vehicle doesn't have windshield or windows?
Heavy armor, but let's just leave the windows in.
Well, you know what though? I think because it looked very modified. I just told myself headcanon, they didn't get around to putting that in yet.
Everyone is saying that anything that is Imperial is garbage. Any Imperial weapon or armor is crap.
But what's the old saying that people think that the term military grade is really good, but it just means the lowest possible that you can still use?
That's right. And so
that's
adding a really kind of cool undercarriage to this. That, yes, the Empire is like this awesome military weapon, but their stuff is garbage.
So yeah, that abandoned base that they had them go to was apparently a couple of things about that. The reactor control to shut everything down to override the system so it would blow up. Very reminiscent of Death Star 1 when Obi-Wan Kenobi had to turn off the tractor beams.
I like that they made a point of showing that. I like that they made a point of saying that the Empire never has fucking guardrails on anything.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a little nope.
You gotta wonder though if that was deliberate, because they knew if someone fucked around with the controls there, they could blow the station up. So they made getting access to it as terrifying as possible, so no one would actually do it.
Yeah, but we've seen a lot of other Imperial stuff, like the center of the Death Star, the tractor beam. There was no guardrails around that either.
Or those poor saps when the laser would fire and they had to like get out of the way or be vaporized.
I love when the guys are like working on the reactor and then Buddy falls from the top and they're like, oh, here comes another guy.
We have to talk about the most important part of this Imperial base. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Pants Guy!
Pants Guy!
Thank God genes still exist in the Star Wars universe.
I watched it the second time tonight, deliberately looking for that. I must have been writing a note when it happened because I didn't see the scene.
They might have gone and taken it out, right? So with it just being on Disney Plus, they control the only spot where it's uploaded to. So once the internet found it, they may have gone back in and like re-edited that episode and re-uploaded it.
The cast was like Carl Weathers and a few of them. They totally addressed it on Twitter, and it's like, hey, what are you gonna do? That's funny. Like they just rolled with it. I think I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. Like if they edited him out, but I was thinking maybe they put Pants Guy in on purpose as like a funny little Easter egg, like that stormtrooper that hit his helmet in episode 4. You know,
the real important one from the episode: the clones in those tanks.
Yes, a lot of theories about that. Some people, I mean, obviously they're trying to make a Force-imbued warrior of some sort, but people are saying, is this a connection to Snoke or the Emperor?
Yeah, and I really like how they had the doctor from the season 1 come back and, you know, oh, forgive me for this, blah blah. We were getting promising effects due to the high M count, so it's introducing midichlorians without saying midichlorians.
I know, that was clever. Because if they'd said midichlorians, we all would have been like, fuck.
Yeah.
I've been wondering.
Midichlorians.
That beat me to it. But there's a lot of people talking about the potential that there could be dark troopers or shadow troopers similar to previous Legends games.
We see all the armor at the end with Moff Gideon, and a lot of people are thinking that is the dark troopers, and in order for them to be dark trooper, they have to be force sensitive or something. I don't know much about dark troopers outside of
this whole M count thing. Comes back to something we were talking about in the previous cast, where I'm curious if somebody who was playing a long game that Gideon might have continued the work on is either Yoda's race, which we still don't know the name of, is an incredibly high M count just on its own, or was someone playing the long game and did in fact clone Yoda unknown to anybody way back, and they've been growing it ever since in the hopes to create Force warriors, because that scheme could have been hatched at a time where Jedi were everywhere and they knew what they were. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a possibility that it's a precursor to Snoke, because they are pretty malformed. In addition, after the tracker was planted on the Razor Crest and we see the Imperial officer talk to them before we see Moff Gideon, the I don't even know what the rank is, but whoever the Imperial officer says, you will be rewarded in the new era, implying potentially the First Order, the start of the First Order.
We got to look at Gideon's ship finally too. So he's got a Star Destroyer of sorts. So like this guy's with what he's doing, he's got some resources. It's
one of the smaller ones, but it's more for a star system control. Is what it is. Yeah.
Cool.
I think we see them in Rebels once or twice, Ben. They're like the smaller Star Destroyers with the big engines in the back.
Yeah.
I just had a random thought that like, do we maybe Yoda was part, like if it is like a clone, maybe Yoda was part of it, like he was in on it. Maybe he was involved in it because he was getting older.
My initial reaction to that was Yoda wouldn't go along with something like that, but like again, we don't know anything about his race. Maybe he was like, dying, my race is a child I must have.
Yeah,
it's possible that they don't reproduce sexually, and this is the way, is that you got the only way to make another Yoda is to make a clone.
So is that what this is the way means?
Yeah, did you just really use that in that fashion?
Did anybody just go to a scary place when they thought of when Yoda and sexually was used in the same sentence?
Well, there's a lot of theories that him and Yaddle got it on.
Now listen,
They
I've
just
got one of those Yaddle flashlights, so don't even get started.
Oh, come on.
Oh dear God.
There's
the
your
airlock?
title. There's your
Where's the
title.
airlock?
I am not calling this episode Yaddle's flashlight. I'm sorry.
This is the way? Question mark.
This is the way. Hey.
I think introducing those troopers, though, is really putting a spin on the show. So what I like about the show is that I like Mandalorian because I call it kind of a Western, where it's this drifter who has a kid, and they're recounting other things. And I really think if you want to see the influence of what show has influenced The Mandalorian, watch a show called The Rifleman, which is a 1950 show starring Chuck Connors with his little kid. And it's really like The Mandalorian.
Oh,
It's
that's cool.
amazing.
They do continually draw from really, I mean, it's all been done a million times, but it's still working. Like they've done several Seven Samurai Magnificent Seven type episodes, and I'm like, good. Bring me more.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. Everyone say, oh, the Mando and his kid is so cute. Geralt and Ciri. And I'm like, motherfuckers, I came out with this shit 15 years ago. I got 4 fucking brats. Din gets his ship fixed up properly and comes screaming to the rescue of the others and takes out the TIE fighters. I didn't think the Razor Crest could take out TIE fighters on its own, but clearly it can. Cheering the battle. It's several dad moments here because he's like, hey, not bad. Hey, kid. He's like trying to impress him. And then, Baby Yoda pukes. And then while he's flying, he's trying to reach back and clean his kid.
Oh my God, I love that. That was so brilliant.
It's such a parent moment. He's like, I got some stuff to take care of here on board. While he's like wiping the baby's like face and chest and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, that's definitely a parent.
This kid,
he said internal maintenance activities.
Yeah. This kid is growing up in a life of adventure because, I mean, the Razor Crest is pulling G's, climbing in a fight, and Baby Yoda's got his arms in the air going, woo!
I would class the Razor Crest as like a light freighter, right? So I was curious to see it take out TIE fighters, but...
Something I read just actually yesterday is not the Razor Crest a rebellion gunship?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it's pre-Empire, but it bears a striking resemblance to the what they called them, nicknames was Lardies, which was the clone trooper dropships. But that's what I was thinking. It might be sort of a scout ship or a gunship.
Yeah, I think it's a gunship with the sides welded on, where you saw the guys and Yoda hanging out the sides. I think it's been pressurized because it looks totally like a gunship to me.
It does have a couple big cannons on the front too, so it's packing some guns there. Cool ship. It's really I had a pretty neutral opinion at the start, but it's really grown on me. I feel like driving around in a armored van with machine guns on it in real life.
Yeah, we gotta get Scott in here.
We got to see the Mandalorian, lift his helmet up a little bit so he could drink some soup.
That was an interesting moment, and the kid was really interested in seeing. And 2 points is one, when he was in the water in the other episode, he was clearly drowning. So why does his helmet keep making an airlock seal every time he puts it up and down?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And secondly, he's this is after he's learned about the status of his clan basically being a zealot cult. I don't think before he learned that he would have lifted his helmet up even that much to eat in front of the kid. But I still think he's going to show his face before the end of the season to the kid.
Good point.
I think you're right.
Yeah, you're right, because Baby Yoda was very like, whoa, what is this?
And you know what? Like, he's a baby and everything, but he's a smart kid. He knows what's going on most of the time. He's just trying to get his next meal. But like, he was like, he almost fixed the ship.
Don't cross the wires.
God, that was really hilarious. The red wire goes where the blue wire was.
It was so funny because Pedro Pascal was so monotone in that, but like his voice acting is so good because he said the same thing over, but the red one where the blue one's supposed to, like, he just kept going and going. And I was dying.
Yeah.
I could
It's
feel
almost
his
like-
frustration through the television. Like you could see he was like trying to be encouraging like that parent is, but he's like, come on, buddy. I know you can do it.
It's like in the recording booth, they sat like a 2-year-old down with 2 wires and got Pedro to try to walk.
Yeah,
them
try
through
to get him to
fucking
do it.
thing. So the frustration is real.
Yeah, oh my god, it was funny.
So another scene that I thought was really good was the tank versus TIE fighters scene. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
The way Grief was using the turret to shoot the sides of the canyon to presumably shred the ties with rocks.
I think he was just literally missing.
It was a very good action episode. Next episode is entitled The Jedi, and it is the one Filoni's directing. And as Chris mentioned last time, there's no way he's not going to direct the Ahsoka episode. So I think this week we're finally going to see her.
It's also one of the longer ones for the season. The clock's over, what was it? I just read it, 42 minutes.
Oh, really? Good.
Nice, good.
Long episode.
I'm curious to see how Rosario Dawson does, and I'm curious to see if the voice throws me off because it's not going to be Ashley Eckstein voicing her, unless they do some sort of weird overdub, which would just be weird.
I got faith in it. I really like Rosario Dawson. I think she can do it.
Looking forward to seeing it either way.
All right. Who's ready to talk about Supernatural, the last couple episodes?
Oh my goodness.
Who's ready to get emotional?
This guy.
Me.
Raina, this is your escape hatch chance if you want it.
Yep. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Merida's trying to get in. She's lost connection somehow.
All right, we'll wait for her. Let's have an awkward silence.
I had. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, it cut out. I was actually going to say just one thing to Mandalorian, and then that's when I realized that nobody could hear me.
Oh.
That anybody that's had to talk to me, I don't know, anytime that hadn't at least heard of Bo-Katan is probably hasn't been paying attention to me, which a lot of people don't, so that's fine. But her name's come up a few times. Conversation. Anyway, Supernatural.
Who wants to fire the first Supernatural shot? Who's got a thought to start us?
That my wife had a thought to start us off with. She wishes we hadn't watched episode 20. She said we should have left it at 19.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
I actually was reading an interview with, oh my god, blanking on the creator's name.
Kripke?
Eric Kripke?
Thank you. Where he said, because the fans have been very split about how they felt about the ending and whether if they had have let him do it, if it would have been better. And he said that we'd all have hated it and that it would have been a horror movie ending, and pretty much we should be happy that we got that one.
Yeah.
So, and I was really trying to figure out how, after watching 20, I was like, well, that seems very much like an ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely put it in a position where you're not going to bring them back.
It
Yeah.
was like, so I mean, Jenny and I had talked about it, and we were like, maybe they'll just get happily ever after, and it'll be like them living their lives.
Yeah.
Ha! No.
I know we were maybe about it. There was also just the sort of the thought that couldn't really ever
Dreams.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd just go back to we only have to kill a few minor little monsters. No world-ending events anymore.
Actually an interesting thing. So then we have to assume that the monsters exist separate from Chuck.
Yes, which is an interesting sort of thought, which sort of well, I don't want to just dive on in, but
Dive in.
well, okay. Because there's been a lot of concern, let's say, about Dean getting taken out in a very normal way, in a way that anyone could have been.
Yep.
And the best sort of explanation that I read, because I've been reading, I've been diving into the Supernatural Twitter, and it's Civil War down there, man. It's like, but yeah, sorry. So the best thought was that basically once they finished Chuck and weren't in his story anymore, that it's not that they lost their superpowers, but their plot armor was gone.
Yes.
Yes.
And that That was what I
Well,
thought too. That it was
yeah,
like,
okay.
okay, well now that Chuck's not essentially needing them to further his story, so regular things could happen. Because I mean, they are very good, but shit happens and
Yeah.
stupid shit happens, and plot armor is a very good explanation of what I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it also reiterates the whole fact that these are two regular guys. They're not
Yes.
superheroes. They're just regular guys who had blessings in their, like genetic code for being a Winchester and a Campbell, but they're still just regular guys. So
Absolutely.
that's the one way that they wanted Dean to go out. That's the one way that Jensen had said that that's how Dean is to go out, just in a fight, fighting bad guy monsters.
Yeah.
That's how he's gonna go.
And it made perfect sense, and it felt right.
Yes. And
Yeah.
they were saving two brothers.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that did not
who
escape
lost
me.
their
Yeah.
parents. Yeah. Like,
Oh, there were a lot of things that they call back in this episode and the one before, like when Castiel left in the in 20, he left a handprint
yes.
Yep.
on Dean's shoulder, right? So
Yep.
like when he dragged him.
Which apparently
hell.
was Misha's idea, according to
Yeah.
Jensen.
Misha's
Yeah,
a
that was
treasure.
Yeah.
I just,
Is,
Yeah.
we don't deserve him. We don't.
no, we do not.
And I think with the ending they had to do it not only just kill off Dean in a fight, like you said, but then they had to have Sam grow old and show you him growing old, so that you just couldn't say, "Oh well, both brothers died at the same time." We could easily
Mhm.
resurrect the show by bringing them back by having Sam age out and die.
It's interesting what you said about the plot armor, Jenny, because it's clear Sam lived to be an old man and have a family because he stopped hunting.
Yes.
But then
Exactly.
why did his son have the tattoo?
Yeah, he had
I
the
think
tattoo.
because
Ah.
I think Sam would have just taught it lore and said, "Okay, this is what we had, but you're getting the tattoo to protect you." Sam would have taught it to him, but may not have been the lifestyle.
I don't want you hunting, but I don't want a demon inhabiting your body either, so you're getting this tattoo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I
Exactly.
feel like I feel like when his son was talking to him, when he was sitting on the edge of the bed and you saw the tattoo, I don't know. I feel like his son's been hunting, but I'm not sure. I feel
Very
like
possible.
I
Was
didn't
his son
get
wearing plaid?
I think he had a leather jacket on though.
Oh,
trying to remember.
I thought he had a blue plaid shirt.
There
okay.
you go.
If he was wearing plaid, then he was hunting.
I think it was very
is that
possible.
the hunter's outfit? That's their
Big time.
armor.
Quick side tangent. There was talk several years ago about the girls getting a spin-off hunting show. Is that anything ever come of that?
It didn't. It didn't get picked up. Yeah.
I had read that CW had the choice between the Wayward Sisters and Legacy, which was a spin-off from Vampire Diaries.
Oh,
They chose to back Legacy and not Wayward Sisters, which I think was a mistake, because now that
Yeah.
I've caught up, I'm like, that episode showed they could have done so much with those characters and such a different dynamic of storytelling
mhm.
with their personal growth.
Yeah, as soon as they pitched that idea, I was like, hell yeah, I'd watch the shit out of that. Like Claire was it Claire Novak? Was that her name, Claire?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I thought she
Yeah.
was awesome. I was like, yeah, I
Oh,
want to see
yeah.
her hunter.
Interesting thing, because when Supernatural started a bajillion years ago, it was not, I don't want to say girl friendly, but it was very much boys and watching cute boys.
Girls were just kind of passing through. They were just
Yeah.
they either needed to be saved, or they were love interest, or they were
Yeah. That we got to the point where they realized that women were their target demo, but that not that women were just watching it for hunky boys, which partly, but it was also the fact that there were a lot of strong female characters towards the end, and I think
Mhm.
Those early seasons, it was a lot of like Babe of the Week guest star type thing, right?
oh
like,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's why Ellen and Joe were so great, because they were sort of the first women on the show that were kind of more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard to like not want to talk about the entire the show.
Well, you know what? There's no reason we can't do that sometime.
I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I cried a lot.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I thought I cried a lot during Marvel's Endgame. Like that movie had me. This episode had me even worse. Like I
Oh,
was an
yeah.
emotional wreck when I finished watching it, and I watched it. So for those that don't know, I have hosted a small little like get together at my house last Saturday. Tracy, a good friend of mine, is a huge Supernatural fan. She wanted to watch the last episode with a group. So I'm like, hey, let's just have a girls' night. Come on over. We'll do some food from the cookbook, and we'll watch the episodes. But I wanted to watch it before
Yes, I
I watched it
understand
with
that.
them,
Good
just
idea.
to prep myself.
Yep.
And I'm glad I did. And I washed my face off. Like I was a mess. And then I get up the next day going, I need to watch the rest of season 15 because I have no idea what happened to Cass.
Oh god.
No, that's what I told you. You should have watched the
Oh
one
my
before.
God.
I didn't.
No.
So I binge watched from seasons 3 to 14 in a month and a half.
Wow.
Dedication.
Would have made it and had time to watch season 15 if I didn't take a week break at the end of October. So I just, by Thursday, I'd finished 14. I'm like, I don't have time to watch all 20 episodes. But I had 6 recorded, the last 6 recorded. So I'm like, I'll just watch those. It'll be fine. I will watch the rest. I'll watch all of 15 because I think there's some really great stuff that I missed. But I got the gist of what was happening. And then we were watching it all together on Saturday night. And we were still like, there was like tears. And we were all like, that gets you. We compared it to the MASH season finale.
Oh
like,
yeah.
MASH sticks with me.
Oh,
This one's
man.
gonna stick with me.
Yeah.
Watched.
Yeah, I think of Seinfeld. That ending was like, I watched it 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, every time I watch it, I go, horrible ending. But they got what they deserved.
With this one, I think the thing I watched this with Damon because Damon and I are like we've been
Yeah.
watching this together forever. And for Dean's scene hit me harder, like so hard.
Yeah.
That I was like, I mean, Damon was looking at me like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
Mhm.
And the hardest part for me, and this is just a little personal history, when my mom passed away, I was the person that was sitting with her. And I actually told her that it was okay to go. It's actually making me a little choked up talking about it. So, when he asked him to tell him that it was okay to go, and then when young Dean told Sam that it was okay to go, that was like really, really hard, and it got me extra hard. So, I think that was
Oh,
what got me.
I think everyone can kind of relate to that aspect of that in this final episode. I said to Jenny the day, like, it's almost a year ago to the day Jenny and I lost our friend Jason Bunky. And, time's different, right? Up there. So Dean's waiting on that bridge. And all I could think of is, my buddy Bunk was my first brother, he's up there waiting for me. And one day he'll just turn around and I'll be there. And it was really sad and it made me cry, but it's like, in a weird way, it's making things not as scary for me when my day comes, because I know he's going to be right there going, hey man, what's up? Like,
For that to be heaven for them was so perfect. Like it just for everything that they've done and everything they've been through, the idea of them being locked into like the old heaven, like just reliving, but being able to be there without all of these people that they've lost.
Heaven became life after life. Like they'll get to see their parents. Rufus just lives up the road. I don't know what Dean's gonna do with his days, but I mean, he's at peace now, so he can just relax and eat pie.
The part that made me so happy was that essentially Dean was picking up Sammy again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like,
Yes.
aww.
And that final scene, and he's like, "Hey, Sammy," and he turns around. They're both wearing the exact same thing they wore in episode 1.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
Yeah, they are. They're actually, the shot is exactly the same.
Exactly same.
Yeah.
It's totally the same.
It's been many years since I watched season 1, so.
So what I was thinking when I watched this was, for a genre show, it really touched on some really deep themes, and the idea of like when you're going to heaven, and like when Dean's scene, my thought was, oh my God, Sam's alone. Sam's now alone. And he has to carry on. And that whole idea of being alone, but he wasn't alone. Dean was with him. until they got to meet again in heaven. And that whole idea of like what heaven is going to be like, really, really deep theological stuff happening in a genre show.
Oh yeah.
Which is really, really cool how they intertwine that in.
Their take on this heaven is like, I'm not a very spiritual person, and I don't believe in a lot, but I do believe we will all get to see each other again someday. So their take on heaven is what, if anything, I do believe.
Yeah.
And what really got me was when he sees Bobby there, who I'm glad he worked in calling him an idiot one last time, but Dean's sort of like, I'm on my own here with Sam, but he's just like, he'll be along.
Yeah.
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 Be here before you know it.
Mhm.
I thought it was handled great. I thought it was really cool the way they did kind of the quote unquote finale and the one before it, where they fuck Chuck and just they win, and then it's like, all right, what are we gonna do with season 20? And what are we gonna do in episode 20? And I'm like, well, maybe they're just gonna kind of go back to the hunt. And sure enough,
It was really cool because like episodes 18 and 19 felt like season's 15 finale, and episode 20 was the series finale.
Yes.
that's
absolutely.
a great way to put it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
It's like the love letter to the fans, like like Sam with his shirt off, like that. Was
So true.
Yes. He hasn't had his shirt off in years.
right?
Yes.
Just take it off now.
Yes.
That must be all right, Jared. Get working out for the next few weeks. We know what we're doing here.
Good too that it was really nice to see, because they both kind of got the rest of the life that they would have wanted. Like Dean, got to rest essentially.
Mhm.
Finally, and
Yeah.
Sam got the family and the kids and the life that he felt that he wanted before he got caught back up in the hunt. So I liked that, although I have one thing, one thing.
Was it the
So no, well, yeah, that was bad. But no, it was that was a terrible wig, and his face didn't age, but his hair did, and that was just bad. But anyway, that was enough. But when he got to heaven, and Bobby explains that that Jack, with some help of Castiel, helped set things right. I'm like, what? But Cass was in the empty. What
Yeah.
happened? I was a little annoyed they
Thanks,
didn't
God.
give me that. Like, just a little bit.
I just kind of absorbed that for some reason. I was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. Yep. Mhm.
With that saying, it's like, yeah, what happened to Cass? I mean, if he's there to help Jack, then why wouldn't he have checked in on Dean and Sam?
I think it was a missed opportunity to have Castiel sitting in the back of the Impala when Dean gets in, and Castiel just goes, hello.
The Destiel fans agree with you wholeheartedly.
During the montage of Sam getting older and seeing Dean drive, every time they got back to Dean driving, someone different could have been in the car, like a moment where Cass was sitting with him,
Right.
or the dog at the end, Miracle,
Yeah.
because by this point Miracle would have passed away at some point,
Yeah.
or just little things like that they could have done. But I think the focus was to be on the brothers.
From what I've read over the past couple of days, their COVID was the like the idea that there would have been a lot more people in heaven
Yeah.
if COVID hadn't been happening. Like
If they hadn't had to quarantine people to come into
exactly.
Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. That's I love that idea.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, it popped into my head of him and his dad driving in the Impala, or even a scene where the father's like, I want to drive it. You're not driving. This is my car.
Yeah.
I knew Jim Beaver was gonna be in it because I follow him on Twitter, which he left, by the way, because of stuff. But he talked about being on the plane coming home, that it was done, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, the season finale, if you want to refer to episode 19 as the season finale, and I guess 18 before it. Jack, when he did the blow it up thing, didn't die, and he came back. As soon as he, I think it was in the first silo or whatever, and he put his hand over and the plant died. Michelle and I have watched all Supernatural together. She said, oh, is that because he's dead? It's like, no, I think he's absorbing life. I think he's absorbing energy. We're going to see him get his powers back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done.
I didn't quite exactly know how that was going to play out, but it was interesting to see. It's like, oh, no, okay, yeah, and now you've got Lucifer and Michael going at it, and he's absorbing their power. Like when one of them died. It's like, yep, he's
Yeah.
absorbing them
Yeah.
and he's absorbing that. And I
I
thought
missed
that
that.
alone was going to be enough. But then to have Dean and Sam just keep getting up against Chuck
Yes.
must be really reluctant and actually, I just want you to stay down. It's like, nope, we're
Yeah.
getting up.
I
That was
love
fantastic.
that they would not
Yeah.
stay down. That was the Winchesters all over, man. They just and they
That was-
laugh and
The whole you're not kneeling before God,
yeah.
right? Like essentially, like this is God, and you are not doing His bidding or His will. You're having free will, and that's what pissed him off enormously.
There's a Jon Snow moment, not bending
Yeah,
the knee.
not bending the knee.
I like that they commented it several times. This was brought up with oh my God, the sister of God. What is her name again?
Amara.
Amara. The whole there has to be a balance between good, like dark and light. There has to be that balance, and that Jack has her absorbed in him now because that's how God had her at the end.
Yeah.
That's why I think there were still monsters at the end, was because they couldn't have a world where there's just light. They had to have that balance of the darkness.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that Jack became the balance too because he absorbed Amara, and he said that he could tell she was within him. I feel like he was the God we had been waiting for, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. One watching, not participating,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
like.
I was happy with the way the whole thing ended, and I've never been so happy to have a theory on how it was going to end be so wrong because I can't remember who I told, but my original theory for this season was that Dean would become the new Death and Sam would become the new God.
Oh, I think yeah.
Wrong.